Hi, fifth graders. Today we will be reading chapter 16 of Pillage by Obert Sky. Remember in chapter 15, Kate, Beck, and Milo made it back into the conservatory and found the stones and the stones hatched and they turned out to be dragons. Excerpt from section 8 of The Green Got Not as recorded by Daniel Phillips. In 1837, Bruno Pillage sailed across the Irish Sea to Ireland. He had mysteriously amassed a fantastic amount of wealth. Bruno met and married a woman named Catherine. Together, they returned to the Isles of Man and built a large manor and farm. They had one daughter and one son. The son was named Daniel. Chapter 16. Is it really so odd? I have been taught a number of things in my life. I really can't remember a time when I wasn't surrounded by adults bombarding me with things they thought I should know. I remember learning the moon is 238,855 miles away and that I comes before E except after C. Both perfectly useful things to know if you're going to spend some time riding on the moon. Now, I felt gypped. Not a single person had ever taught me how to handle and raise dragons. In fact, I had met a number of adults who had insisted dragons weren't even real. I wished desperately they could see me now. The dragons had hatched 2 weeks earlier, and already we were becoming a bit weary of spending time with them. Not that they weren't fascinating and cool, but they were also huge and powerful and frightening. They were like gigantic, scaly crows, impatiently strutting around and growing huge teeth, which they used to consume the hardy, thick weeds growing in the conservatory. Kate had names for all 8 of them. Myth, the fat, spiky one with skin so foggy and gray that she didn't look real. Jane was almost pretty with a yellowish skin, piercing green eyes, and bright white teeth. Mercury, the silver, metallic-looking one. Ishmael, the big white one I preferred to call Whitey. Carpet, the extra hairy one, and Saber, who had 2 large teeth sticking out of his mouth like a saber-toothed tiger. Kate had named the tallest and skinniest one Ryden because she said it sounded like a dragon name. The smallest one we call Pip for obvious reasons. They all had hairy backs and odd, colorful markings. Ryden was half as tall as the walls of the conservatory. He was covered in gray scales from the neck down, but his head was orange. He had a nice-shaped single horn right above his nose and fine-looking tail covered with sharp, jagged pieces of cartilage. He struggled with walking, but when he flapped his wings, you could feel the air move all the way to the corners of the conservatory. Pip was green with a black stripe down her stomach and white furry ears. She had the most personality and was really the only one who seemed happy to see us when we delivered extra food and attention. It had not been easy taking care of them. We spent hours each day trying to avoid Scott and collect extra food from the forest for the dragons. We figured we should probably feed them meat, but Kate said the moment we fed them something they could actually bleed, she was out. Ishmael nipped playfully at Milo's hair, knocking him to the ground in the process. Milo didn't find it as enjoyable as Ishmael did. Milo picked himself up and moved over by Kate and me. "They're getting a little too big," he said needlessly. "I know. What happens when they learn to fly?" Kate wondered aloud. "I guess the problem will take care of itself at that point," I said. "We can't just let them fly away," she reasoned. "There has to be some way to manage them." Each dragon was possessive of his or her space, rarely moving too far from the spot where they had been born, except for to drink from the metal bins or to tussle with each other. Your uncle has to know something about managing them, Milo said. This is his place. My uncle's a little different, I admitted. I told you, Milo said. Still, Kate said, watching Pip eat a pile of weeds as big as her. In a few days, these things are going to be too big for even this place to hide. I don't know what to do, I insisted. What about that book you found? Milo asked. The book from the basement. What about it? I asked, confused. There's a tunnel connecting the conservatory to the basement, Milo pointed out. Maybe that's important. I shook my head. The dragons are important. Maybe the book is too, Milo said insistently. You should read the book more carefully. Ryden turned and, while spinning his tail, clipped my right side, sending me flying into Carpet, the purple dragon with the thick, hairy back and wings. Carpet didn't enjoy having me dumped on him. He bit my shirt and lifted me up. He shook me like a dog, shaking a toy, and then flipped me into Mercury's nest. Milo had originally wanted to name Mercury Shiny, but I had argued that that was quite possibly the worst dragon name ever, so we changed it. Mercury nudged me. I poked him back with a long stick, and he screamed at me. I decided it was time to get out of the nest. I hurried back to Kate and Milo. I gotta be honest, I said. I don't think they're going to take orders from us much longer. I should tell Wayne. She'd help us. No, Milo said. They'll take them away or kill them. No one's going to kill them, I replied, more confidently than I felt. I knew how much adults love to take apart and study everything in effort to keep themselves busy. This is so strange, Kate said softly as she looked out over the herd. I know, I said. Dragons aren't even real. Kate smiled at me. I held my hand out and she put hers in mine. I pulled her over toward the half-burned shack as Milo followed us. We hefted up the metal gate and Kate and Milo dropped down into the hole. Standing on the small footholes in the wall, I reached up to shift the grate back into place before descending into the tunnel floor. I had wised up days ago and now kept a small flashlight in my pocket for safer tunnel travel. There was no water in the hole, but there were still a few parts that were muddy from the ice that had been frozen and then thawed. With no flowing water coming in, we had discovered that beneath the shack, the tunnel ran in two directions. One tunnel led to the manor's basement, and the other led to the huge underground cage. We couldn't get inside the cage because of the massively solid lock holding the door shut. We headed towards the manor's basement and quickly crossed under the underground pool. In no time, we passed up the bedroom and the library. I was starting to get a hang of navigating the tunnels. You really should read that book you took, Milo insisted. I'm working on it, I said defensively. I've been a little busy raising dragons. That book could have something we need in it, Kate said. Kate's right, Milo joined in. I know, I said. I'll finish in the next couple of days. We had reached the room with the desk and the ever-burning candle. It lit the room with awkward shadows. We walked straight to the tunnel that would lead us to the back of the wardrobe. While exploring the tunnels, we had found another way into the manor, but it came out on the far side of the house, close to Scott's room, so we always used our original entrance. I turned off the flashlight, knowing the wardrobe room would be dark, but lit enough to move around. Kate helped me push the wardrobe away, and all three of us climbed out into the dimly lit room. I thought I was experiencing a flash of revelation. It turns out the revelation was just Thomas flipping on the light switch to illuminate Miley and Wayne, who were standing on the other side of him. They all three wore expressions similar to those I had seen by a few other adults and teachers in my life who had been less than pleased with me. Beck, Miley scolded sadly. I can't believe it. Kate and Milo moved behind me as if I would protect them. What are you doing here? Wayne demanded. What are you doing here? I countered instinctively. Nothing happens in the house without us knowing about it, Miley said. So tell us the truth. What are you doing here? Wayne asked again. We were dusting? It was all I could come up with on the fly. Dusting? Thomas asked angrily, pointing his cane at me. I had never seen that color in Thomas's cheeks before. I told you to stay out of the basement, Wayne said. Actually, you said there was no basement, I pointed out. That should make our insistence even clearer, Miley argued. I vowed to never ever talk or reason like an adult. Thomas stomped his foot and pointed at the door. To your room, he said, and you children are to stay clear of the manor. Understood? Especially you. Thomas pointed at Milo, but Kate nodded as well. They slipped out as fast as they could, running down the hallway and out through the door. I couldn't believe how quickly they deserted me. I'm disappointed, Miley said, back to my back as I began to journey to my room. Sorry, I said, turning to face her. We didn't hurt anything. Children have no idea how high the stakes of life are, Thomas chided harshly. Go. I walked faster. Thomas and Wayne followed me all the way to my room. Miley walked a few steps behind them. As soon as I was inside, the door was locked behind me. Wait, I argued. You can't lock me in. What if I need to go to the bathroom? Look in the corner, Wayne yelled through the door. I turned, and in the corner there was a pot, not too terribly different from the one my uncle kept upstairs. No way, I said. You have to let me out. Good night, Beck, Thomas said. This is for your own good. Words of warped adult wisdom. We'll see you in the morning, Miley called sadly. You need some time to think about what you've done. I could hear their footsteps retreating. I fell down onto my bed and rubbed my palms against my eyes. I glanced at the pot and realized that my life was going through a seriously weird phase. At least now it looked like I could finally do a little uninterrupted reading. Hey, my friends, that is the end of chapter 16. I will see you tomorrow for chapter 17.